How to make a Stuart triple expansion engine run, Part 1, the introduction. As I take a closer look at the overall construction of the engine, one problem is immediately obvious. See if you can guess what it is at this stage. I'll show the solution later on in the episode. The gentleman who brought this engine to fix has been working on it for some 24 years. Obviously not all of the time. He's actually a retired orthopaedic surgeon. He'd tried it on steam, he'd tried it on compressed air, but it would not rotate, only half a turn and that was your lot. And obviously a triple expansion engine or any other steam engine, model or full size, that will only rotate half a turn is not much good. The engine's rotating okay in this clip because it's sat on my small turntable. It's a very nicely made engine. When I look at it, I can see some problems, and there are probably more than I'm actually seeing, because it will not even rotate half a turn in reverse. Here's some information, not necessarily just about the triple expansion engine, but it's quite interesting anyway. It's worth a read, but I do recommend that you pause the video unless you can speed read. This Stuart triple expansion engine was built by Mr. John G. Guy, in memory of his grandfather, who was chief engineer with the King Line early in the 20th century. Now to take a slightly closer look at the engine, I can see there is a problem with the glands, mainly because of the black residue, but that could be something else. The reversing hand wheel, even though it doesn't move the valve gear into reverse, is very nice indeed. It's been blued by dropping it into oil after it was heated. And of course the engine doesn't go into reverse. When I rotate the hand wheel in the opposite direction, this is as far as the valve fork gets in the expansion link. I'm going to leave that for now, but once I've fixed the problem by making a new reversing shaft, I'm hoping the engine does run in reverse because the eccentric sheaves are made in pairs, and I don't personally like this. I prefer individually adjustable eccentric sheaves. But anyway, I need to have a look at the engine. It's a bit rusty in places because it's sat around for many years and it's not been oiled very often, I wouldn't think, if it's never been run. These days, with a bit of modern technology, there are ways of cleaning parts in situ without dismantling them. But generally this only applies to cylinder heads and steam chests and things like that. A lot of the time you have to go into very confined spaces, like you see here. But cleaning the 3-cylinder covers and the top of the block shouldn't be difficult. This is what I'm using. A quick health and safety warning, these are very useful tools, but when you use them, you need to make sure you're wearing safety glasses. And in this clip, I'm running the drill at a very high speed, which is not a good idea. The parts get cleaned a bit faster and the attachment fragments. It's probably a good idea to wear a breathing mask as well. This, by the way, is not the video running at a high speed. I'm running the tool at a high speed, and it makes short work of all the grime and bits of rust. This is incredibly simple. Here it is. It's top tip time. Don't run the drill as fast. Run the drill at a much slower speed. The rotary abrasive pad actually cleans better at a lower speed. A while ago I bought a couple of grinding wheels, but they're made out of this stuff and they don't work very well. My bench grinder runs at 3000 RPM and it's too fast. I don't have any way of slowing it down, but I could use these wheels in the lathe. I put both of these abrasive wheels in a box in the outer part of the main workshop. This engine is held to the wooden base using 4 large brass wood screws. When the owner of the engine and myself were looking at the engine on my kitchen table, I did notice that it was scratching the kitchen table because one of the bolts was sticking through the wood at the bottom. And because the end of the wood screw is slightly flattened and damaged, this tells me that it's been in place for a long time. Even though the owner told me that he'd run the engine in using the lathe, it still didn't explain why it wouldn't go. What I did was remove the sharp end of the screw using my bench grinder that I bought recently for the princely sum of £25 from B&Q. This is one of the problems. I've temporarily fitted a brass hinge underneath this end of the engine because there isn't a cast pad there to support it, so the base was screwed down unevenly, which subsequently twisted the base and misaligned everything, very much like a cast iron bed of a lathe, which is much more robust than this, and they always need levelling. In the fullness of time, I will make a pad and stick it to the engine so that it always sits level wherever it's mounted. What I did originally while the customer was with me was I removed the screw, oiled the engine, connected the airline, tweaked the high pressure cylinder timing very slightly, based on the noise coming from the engine when I rotated the crankshaft. And after a bit of rotation, the engine started running. It wasn't running very smoothly, but it did run, and the customer was overwhelmingly pleased with the result. I didn't make the video with the customer with me. Now, as usual, I'm working on my own in my small workshop, and I'm checking the tightness of all the fixings, and the nuts on the studs and other fittings are far too tight. As usual, I'm not happy with the slot-headed grub screws that Stuart supply with these engines. Here I'm making a slight adjustment. I slacken off one of the grub screws and then tap the eccentric sheave a tiny amount so it moves on the crankshaft. And here I'm firmly tightening this tiny grub screw, which is the only thing, along with another one which is identical, that holds the eccentric sheave to the crankshaft. The vacuum pump and the water pump are already made for this engine, but they currently aren't fastened to it. In this clip I've connected the airline to the inlet of the high pressure cylinder. Even without the airline attached, everything is a lot more free than it was. And then it's not running very well, but then again, just about everything that could leak on the engine, the glands, etc., are leaking. The timing's still not quite right on the high pressure cylinder. Later on in the series I will check the timing and very many other things on this engine. As I tightened the grub screw, guess what? Half of it broke off. This is situation normal. I know Stuart have been making engines for a long time, but a 7BA slot-headed grub screw is not a good way to fix the eccentric sheave to the crankshaft. I'm going to remove the eccentrics and rods, throw away the existing grub screws and rethread the whole 6BA to take 6BA Allen cap-head grub screws. I turn on the airline and rotate the crankshaft. After the previous short run, it's already feeling a lot freer, but it's blowing really badly, and I think this is the gland on the high pressure cylinder. A lot of black stuff coming out of it. I'll look at that in due course. So what about the usual broken grub screw? Well, it's very easy to remove with a pair of long nose pliers. And here it is before I throw it into room 101. And that's it for the introduction video. This is going to be a very interesting series. Stay safe, stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.